Good afternoon, all. We'll just wait a couple of moments whilst a few late arrivals join us, and then we'll kickstart on our webinar on the delights of our Tasmanian expedition cruise series. So bear with me just very briefly. Right, I think that should do us. Look, before we get started, guys, any questions you might have in this presentation, please feel free to pop these into the chat function on your computer. And between myself, David and Dale, who are joining us today as our kind of guest speakers, we'll do our level best to answer as many of them time dependent. And just an FYI that this webinar is being recorded today. So if for any reason you've got to nip out or have other meetings to attend, we will be sending you a full webinar recording of this presentation so you can peruse to your heart's content at a later time. So thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Will. I'm a member of the Coral Expeditions sales team, and we're here today to listen to an overview and the highlights of the Coral Expeditions Tasmania cruise season, consisting of 4 really individual expedition itineraries, a 16-night full circumnavigation of the Tasmanian coastline through to our core 10-night coastal wild and 10-night coastal trekking itineraries, covering the remote and truly stunning southwestern and eastern parts of the island. And even the option to join us on Boxing Day to follow the famous Sydney Hobart yacht race live on the water, but I assure you in much more comfort than the competitors. As I say, my name is Will. I'm a member of the Coral Expedition sales team. Joining me today, I have David and Dale Williams, 2 of our Tasmanian cruise series guest lecturers with Coral Expeditions. And with their local Tasmanian knowledge and experience, David and Dale are the perfect embodiment of a Coral Expedition guest lecturer, and hopefully will be providing their commentary on some of the main highlights across the expedition cruise series. Coral Expeditions is Australia's pioneering expedition cruise operator. We've been sailing for 40 years now, and our fleet of 3 specialised expedition ships and tenders take guests to some of the most beautiful yet undiscovered islands and coastal regions of the world. Our travellers are attracted by our relaxed small ship atmosphere and itineraries that larger ships simply cannot replicate. And at a time when the cruise industry is moving to larger and less personal ships, we've taken the decision to limit the size of our vessels to maximise that kind of true expedition experience. Our cuisine is prepared small batch on board using quality Australian produce and wine, and in Tasmania, obviously with a definite Tasmanian flavour. And we operate to high Australian standards of safety with Australian crew, crucially, wherever we go. We were the first to offer interpretive programs reflective of the destinations we visit, and to employ expedition leaders, guest lecturers, marine biologists and scuba instructors. And it's a tradition that continues today. For those of you who have cruised with Coral Expeditions previously, be that in the Kimberley or beyond in domestic and international waters, you're going to be more than aware of the style of expedition product we offer, both on board, but also whilst exploring those, the stunning destinations we visit. As mentioned, Coral have been in business now for 40 years. And for 40 years, we've been taking groups of like-minded explorers to remote destinations with expert guidance and a warm, relaxed Australian style of hospitality. So what is the expedition experience? For those new to Coral Expeditions, it's worth stating right away that if you're looking for that big ship experience with multiple bars, restaurants, nightclubs and casinos, then the Coral Expeditions product is probably not what you're looking for. Instead, we offer a really informal, relaxed on-board experience with no dressing for dinner, no assigned seating, and no formal onboard entertainment outside our schedule of lectures and presentations from our guest lecturer and expedition team, and obviously specific to the waters in which you cruise. The whole ethos of the company is to focus on the stunning destinations we visit rather than the ship itself, and that's a very different prospect from some of the big ship cruise lines out there. We offer a minimum of 2 shore excursions daily and utilise our trademark and unique explorer tenders, which I'll come onto in more detail shortly, to ensure your time is maximised ashore with absolutely no waiting or queuing. Our shore excursions are also tailored to all, no matter the levels of fitness. And so we offer our guests anything from a strenuous walk or hike to a site of interest or viewpoint, through to a gentler beachcomb or exploration of the area. In suitable locations, we also offer the choice of staying aboard our Explorer tenders to cruise through the bays, creeks, rivers and coastlines for those not inclined to head ashore. The point being that we offer a range of excursion opportunities to fit all fitness requirements and hopefully specific areas of interest. And again, all shore excursions are accompanied by our expert expedition team. We do not outsource to third parties, meaning we can guarantee that the quality of the ashore expedition experience. So moving on to the ship, this presentation should only run to around 45 minutes, including a bit of Q&A. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on Coral Discoverer, which is our ship we use for our Tasmanian expedition cruise season. Loads of information, deck plan, images, videos is available on our genuinely excellent website. So please feel free to jump on board and have a little look. But as I said, for the Tassie cruise season, we utilise Coral Discoverer. She's our smaller expedition yacht and is designed to take you to destinations that are genuinely inaccessible to larger vessels. Her shallow draft and manoeuvrability make her highly versatile, and she's the perfect vessel to explore the remote coastlines of Tasmania. She boasts ocean views from all public spaces, all outward-facing staterooms, some with balconies, and state-of-the-art tools for exploration, including the trademark Explorer tenders I've mentioned, zodiacs and kayaks. And her Explorer bar and adjacent sun deck lounge with 360-degree views are much-loved features. And carrying only 72 passengers, she offers an intimate expedition experience that larger ships simply cannot replicate. And so moving on to the onboard experience. Any Coral expedition cruise offers a relaxed and informal onboard environment, as I mentioned, and we encourage an open interaction between guests and crew. We have an open bridge policy, which allows regular interactions with the captain, and there's plenty of in and outdoor areas to relax and soak up the stunning scenery drift by, usually, I must say, with a cheeky gin and tonic or glass of wine in hand. The onboard guest experience is at its core built around 2 main areas: the delicious culinary and wine experience and the schedule of guest lectures and presentations from our onboard experts. The aim being that you can fully immerse yourselves in the flora, fauna, history, geology and cultures of the varied places that we visit. So Coral Expeditions was one of the first cruise operators to employ interpretive guides on our cruises, and it's a tradition that continues today. And each trip includes a mix of our full-time guest lecturers who join the expedition team, and special guest lecturers like David and Dale today, who are chosen for specific local knowledge and expertise. Your cruise will be led by a dedicated expedition leader, and they'll work closely with the captain to determine our daily programme, ensuring that the best use is made of prevailing weather and tidal conditions. Your expedition leader is going to join all shore excursions and activities, and they'll provide daily recaps and briefings and are always on hand to answer any questions that you may have. The expedition team uses our ship's shallow draft, quick disembarkation capabilities, our special tender equipment such as the Explorers I mentioned, and our Zodiacs, and our open deck spaces on board to take you up close and personal to the really remote places that we visit. For any of you who have travelled with Coral Expeditions previously, you're going to be more than aware of the benefits of our unique Explorer tenders that you can see up on the screen. They're known as our safari jeeps of the sea. And if you take away anything from this presentation at all, it's probably our Explorer tenders that I'd like you to take away. These explorers have been purpose designed and built by Coral Expeditions to provide the perfect conduit between our ships and the remote regions we visit, be that here in Tassie, in Kimberley, but on all our domestic and international itineraries. And it's something that no other cruise line, domestic or international, can offer. Our explorers are really easy to board directly from the deck with no steps or ladders to contend with before being lowered into the water. And they provide comfortable padded seating, a full audio system to assist our guides in sharing their expert commentary. A canopy overhead protects you from the sun and sometimes the rain when we're talking Tasmanian weather. And importantly, there's a toilet on board for remote convenience. And this might not sound like a big deal, but it's crucial to avoid having to constantly head back to the mothership and potentially avoid the need to find a suitable bush or have a quick dip in the ocean. In short, the explorers are crucial in allowing us to deliver that true expedition product that Coral Expeditions are known for. They allow easy access not only to beach and harbour landings, but provide the perfect option for exploring the bays, rivers and coastlines, as well as doubling up where applicable as excellent scuba and snorkel platforms. They allow us to on and off board our entire ship's complement in under 15 minutes, which again means more time spent enjoying the areas you paid a considerable amount of money to experience. They're equipped with 2 powerful engines, can reach speeds of up to 20 knots, and they allow us to cover large distances in far more comfort than the Zodiacs or Tinnies utilised by other cruise lines. My final point on the Explorers, I've had the dubious privilege of spending many hours on Zodiacs over the years. They provide you with absolutely no back support whatsoever. There's no protection from the elements, be that hot sun or driving rain. And our Explorers offer the comfort that is that is required to really truly enjoy some of these really remote places that we go to. So moving on to our Tasmanian cruise series, I just want to introduce you to our guest speakers today, David and Dale. David and Dale, are you with us at the moment? Hello, David, are you out there?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Fantastic, David. Yes. You scared me for a second there. Hello, David and Dale. So look, David and Dale escaped the city mainland Australia more than 25 years ago or so now to the wilds of Tassie, and now reside on beautiful and pretty remote Flinders Island, which we visit as part of our Tasmanian circumnavigation. With his lovely wife Dale on the screen there. They were the caretakers of Deal Island for a time and have an interest in all things Tasmania, from the geology, and I think Dale will lead the conversations there, the flora, the fauna, food, wine and landscapes of this really stunning part of the world. And having joined Coral Expedition for some of our recent Tasmanian seasons, they have the experience both with our coastal trekking itineraries and coastal wild itineraries, and hopefully the perfect example of a Coral Expedition guest lecturer. So David and Dale, thank you so much for joining me once again to talk all things Tasmania. If you would like to introduce yourself, and we'll move on to our first slide.
After you, Dale.
Okay, well, as Will said, I'm a geologist, and I've worked in various states of Australia and overseas, and been on Flinders for now over 25 years. And I am just so privileged to be able to see the amazing rocks of Tasmania and to have the opportunity to share it with people who are also interested. So I can guarantee you've got a lot to see and a lot to look forward to on this type of adventure.
Yeah, thanks. And I love hiking, a bit of a runner, but I have a special love of the birds of Australia, and Tasmania has 12 endemic species, so I shall look forward to showing people those.
Thank you, guys. And look, without further ado, we'll move on to our first slide. These first few slides are reasonably generic, so to speak, just to give you guys, and that's David and Dale, a bit of a chance to give an overview, firstly, on the pristineness of Tasmania in general.
Well, this is one I have to jump in, Will. Down in the left-hand, no, the right-hand corner at the bottom are some of the oldest rocks in Tasmania, indeed, probably in all of Australia. And again, because of the explorer and its unique ability to get us into places so close, I was overawed when I first saw these rocks so close. Absolutely amazing metamorphic quartzites from 1.4 billion years ago. And that's just the start.
Wow, wow. And the photo on the left, of course, just is an indication of the spectacular hikes that we will be doing. And that's a huge sense of achievement when we get to the top of those steep hills. Thank you, Will.
Thanks, guys. And on to the wildlife.
Yeah, well, we do get on the Explorer very close to a lot of the islets that are around on the southern part of Tassie, and we get to see a lot of the seal life and the pelagic birds. But we also have the opportunity to get close up with mammals and as well as wombats and echidnas and wallabies, particularly on Maria Island, which is a really special place, but we'll come to that later.
But you just have to look behind that seal again and keep your eyes on the rocks. They're just as interesting.
Thank you, guys. And the bird life.
Well, this is the part that I really do love when we're out in the wilds of Tassie. At the top left there is the orange-bellied parrot. It's extremely endangered. It's down to only 81 birds at the moment, so you can see that it's likely to or possibly fall off the perch literally in the next few years. But we get to see lots of sea eagles and a variety of, as I said, of the endemic birds, particularly the 40-spotted pardalot is one that a lot of birders are keen to see. So thank you.
Thank you. And obviously, finally, Tassie's history.
Well, there's just so much history, and it depends on what people are particularly interested in. But if you do the circumnavigation trip, you get to see Waibelena on Flinders Island, which is an incredibly sad and moving story. Basically on all of the trips at Melaleuca, there's that absolutely beautiful boardwalk with talks about Indigenous spirit and their connection to the land, which is just superb on the way to seeing the orange-bellied parrots. And then, of course, there's...
Yeah, Port Arthur, which is a very somber experience, but it's very interesting too. And the Coral Discoverer have organised the most amazing people to give us a tour with their knowledge. They not only tell us about the lives of the prisoners, but paint a detailed picture of Tasmania generally at that time.
And then there's the magnificent and interesting history on Maria Island and the Darlington settlement, the old coffee palace, the cement works, all of the rest of it. Really fascinating stuff.
Yeah, so throughout the tour, we get loads of history, which is great.
Fantastic. And then moving on to obviously Tassie's fantastic food and wine. And just before you move on that one, guys, I just wanted to say, I mentioned briefly in my kind of introduction to Coral Expeditions, but we heavily focus on kind of utilizing the local produce in any of the areas where we sell, where applicable. So on our Tasmanian cruise series, you know, we source our food, our wine, our Tasmanian single malts, if you're that way inclined, and it's a real, you know, highlight of the trip. But over to you guys as the locals.
Well, I think you've said it all there, Will. The Tasmanian food and wine is superb, and as is well known, the Coral Discoverer is often known as the Calorie Discoverer because we enjoy such fine food and wine. So I think we look forward to sharing that with everybody.
Fantastic. And that just comes us to the end of that kind of little brief overview. So look, we're going to be looking at 4 itineraries today, three in relative depth are our yachtsman cruise, where we follow the old Sydney to Hobart. I'll touch on it towards the end of the presentation. And the following slides are a mixture of our coastal treks of Tasmania on the left-hand side of the screen. 10 nights Hobart to Hobart. It's departing in January every single year. So Coral Discover is down in Tassie as we speak. And then off to the right of the screen, it's our coastal wilds of Tasmania. Again, 10 nights Hobart to Hobart, departing in January and February every single year. And we've been doing this for, I think, well over a decade now. The reason we treat these two itineraries the same is, as you can see from the maps on the screen, the actual kind of itinerary you follow and the kind of highlights you see are almost identical. The main difference is the coastal treks of Tasmania is built around kind of 4 or 5 quite significant day treks up to, and Tasmania is absolutely, well known for some of those epic coastal treks, which we'll come on to a little bit later. The coastal wilds of Tasmania on the right-hand side of the screen there, exactly the same or very, very similar anyway, itinerary. It's catering for those that either don't want to dedicate numerous days to some quite physical day treks, but it's also for those that can't physically manage those big kind of trekking itineraries. You still get to see the same highlights bit, Port Davey, Maria Island, Wineglass Bay, etc. But coastal treks on the left for those who really want to kind of push themselves physically, whereas coastal wilds is for those that want to see those sites, but they want to see it a little less physical challenge. Let's put it that way. So on to our first slide. So over to you, David and Dale.
Thanks, Will. Well, this is the boat centre, the Franklin Boat Centre, which we visit, the wooden boat centre, which we visit as we go up the Derwent. We have probably about an hour in the boat in that centre, and making boats out of hue and pine. The couple that volunteer to run the centre are truly informative and wonderful to share some time with. So we visit that in 2 sections. One half of the passengers will go there, and the other half cross the road to test out the local cider or have a cup of coffee, and then we change over. So it's a really interesting little visit off the boat to hear all about the boat building.
And I must say that well, lots of people really spend a lot of time over at Frank's Cider House. The smell in the wooden boat centre is just amazing. They have a little shop where they sell different things that are made out of yew and pine. And last time I bought a beautiful magnifying glass, obviously, to look at the rocks.
Thank you, Will. Well, this is again a sample of the strenuous hikes that we do. The explorer will land. You can see right on the bottom, on the left-hand side, you can see the Coral Discoverer in the bay there. Drops us on the beach, and we set off and climb up the hill in groups of 6 or 7 with expedition leaders and guest lecturers like myself to be there to support and to give information to. But when you get to the top, you get views like you can see on the screen there. Absolutely stunning. Wouldn't miss it for the world.
On the other hand, there's another group of people who are not quite so ambitious to get to the tops of these hills, me included. I like to take my time, spend a bit of time, obviously, looking at the rocks. I also paint, and so I like to look at the flowers and the fauna and do some sketching. And again, there's always alternatives, even on the Treks tour, for the people who want to take it a bit slower and a bit easier. They're always offered. And some of those trips are probably, I think, more often more interesting than the people who are watching their feet and climbing up the mountain. And I've seen things that David's been jealous of. So there's always something for everybody.
Yeah.
And look, I'll just chip in with my 2 cents worth that Port Davey We visit on both of our coastal wild and coastal trekking and our full circumnavigation of Tasmania itinerary. And it's genuinely one of the true highlights of all three of those trips. It's an incredibly remote natural harbour, I suppose, on the southwestern kind of coast of Tasmania. We're actually the only commercial vessel that has access into Port Davey. And yeah, it's going to be one of the true highlights of your trip. This photo, from what I've been told, as I haven't been there myself personally, doesn't do the kind of natural harbour justice, I suppose, but epic views and one of the true highlights of the trip.
Yes, and one not to miss. It's unique. Yep.
Now, in this picture, again, you can see some of my favourite rocks. And I have to say that not only am I in love with rocks, which some people think is strange, but I'm also in love with the explorer. And the reason is that it gets so close to these sorts of rocks and these sorts of views, not just for the rocks, but for the animals, the seals and the birds that live upon them. And it is just so special. And again, as Will said, it's not an experience that you'll find anywhere else really in the world.
And that rock in particular, Dale always reminds me that it looks like me kneeling down with my head in the sand. But I'll leave that to your imagination. Thank you, Will.
This is, again, some of these rocks. This is at Fluted Cape on Bruny Island. And again, the adventurers on both trips would want to climb that track, which gives you some amazing views. The less adventurous are lucky enough to go in the Explorer around the bottom and see some amazing views from that angle. These rocks are really special. They're probably the best examples of dolerite, which was formed in the Jurassic time. They're the best example of dolerites in the world, which again is fantastic. And we get to see them from both angles.
And the walk itself starts at beach level. We go up through wooded areas right up along the crest there. You can see a lookout halfway up there. Truly magnificent walk, and one that ends up on a beach with we have seabirds to look at and watch them nesting and feeding, etc. So it's a really, really interesting morning. Thank you, Will. Wineglass Bay. We're not. It's weather dependent as to which side of the isthmus that we come in on. But whichever it is, the main walk is up to the lookout. It's very well groomed but it obviously has a lot of steps but no difficulty with them at all. It's a moderate walk, I would say. And Dale, you did the walk at the...
Well, again, on the last trip, some people were tackling the steps. There was another group who decided it was such a beautiful day that they were going to swim, which was lovely. We walked along the beach and we looked at the beautiful granites, 400 million year old granites. What an opportunity.
Thank you, Will. Again, while some people are like myself are up hiking on those rugged hills behind, there's the opportunity for people to get out in kayaks, and they're well looked after by a crew member coming along in a separate kayak to keep everybody safe. But I remember on that particular voyage, which is actually in Port Davey, that the kayakers had dolphins come right up alongside them, and they were boasting about it over dinner that night, which was with lovely photos of it all. Thank you, Will. Cape Hoy. It's part of the Tasmanian Three Capes walk. The Tasmanian government spent millions on putting these walks together. Cape Hoy is beautifully groomed. It has a huge number, I think I was going to say 10,000,
Steps.
but steps. But they are magnificently made out of local granite. They're all the same height, so you don't really have any issues with misjudging them at all. But it is a hilly walk, and yeah, it's a 3 or maybe even 4 hour hike. But as you can see from the view there, I think they're dolerites, aren't they, Dale?
He's got it. Hasn't taken him long.
Yeah. Do you want to say anything else?
No.
Thank you, Will.
On the dolerites.
One for you, Dale.
Yeah, that's right. By the end of these cruises, everyone knows what dolerites are, believe me. But here, you need the cord.
Yep. Okay, keep going.
On Maria Island, we have these absolutely stunning sandstones, and they're an easy walk. We also have on Maria the fossil cliffs, which are some examples of some very special fossils that were deposited during times when there was glaciation in our neck of the woods. And they're unique, they're special in the world. David Attenborough came to see them, they were so special. Mind you, I also think he was after the wombats as well. But again, if the tides are right, the guests are able to walk around to these sandstones and have a really good look at them. Thanks, Will. Here we go.
Sorry, the battery was wearing it. This is, again, on Maria Island, there are some stupendous walks. This is the toughest of the lot, but you have to scramble up at the end onto some rocks to get that amazing view. As you can see, they're pretty thrilled to have done it, but it's a really good walk. But Maria Island does offer several different walks with different degrees of difficulty. So we talk about that on the night before, on the evening before, so that people get a feel for what they are capable of or what they want to do.
Well, that whenever these people were going up the mountains, there was a group who were more interested in the history and the wombats and the Cape Barren geese and all the rest. And so they stayed at lower altitudes and spent a really beautiful and interesting day. So
yeah, we didn't need oxygen for that. Thank you, Will.
Cool. Thank you very much for giving us a bit of an overview of both those kind of 10-night itineraries. I forgot to mention at the beginning of the presentation, guys, that obviously this is a relatively brief overview of the kind of highlights of some of these trips. Please jump online and we give you full detailed day-by-day itineraries. Obviously, lots of information about Coral Discoverer of the ship. There's loads of videos and images, so please peruse to your heart's content. If we were to go into too much detail, we would have you here for far too long. But moving swiftly on to our stating the obvious, but our full circumnavigation of Tasmania. It's 16 nights, Hobart to Hobart, departs January and February every single year, and we've been doing it, like I say, for a bit longer than 10 years now. The bottom kind of 2/3 of the presentation, follows a very, very similar theme to the two itineraries we've just covered. So Maria Island, the Port Arthurs, the Wineglass Bay, you get all those highlights, and not forgetting, Port Davey down on the bottom left-hand corner there. So we're just going to cover the kind of highlights of what you see on this full circumnavigation that you wouldn't see on those two 10-night itineraries. So over to you, just for, again, a bit of an explanation of Port Davey, but from lower levels this time.
Yeah, what an opportunity. Again, this is such a special place. But as you can see, there's a easy boardwalk for us to walk around and see the button grass and a bit of the Aboriginal history. But also moored up on the right-hand side there is the Explorer, which brings us up this beautiful creek with total reflections of the bush on either side. Really pretty. But there we get to see the orange-bellied parrot. There's a conservation effort to breed them down at Melaleuca, and as I said, there are 81 returned there this year, and they feed them as well, so that we get to look through at a bird hide. We get to see this rare bird. So an opportunity not to be missed. Thank you.
And again, just to put my 2 cents in here as well. So in the background of the photo there, as David mentioned, you can see our unique Explorer tenders. But next to them as well, we've got some Zodiac inflatables, or the more kind of traditional Zodiac inflatables. And this is just a good, as we've already had a question concerning the Zodiacs. So those of you who have cruised with Coral previously, you're going to know that we have our Explorer tenders, but we also have our full complement of the more kind of traditional Zodiac inflatables. Tasmania, just by the nature of the water being that, you know, little bit potentially, you know, rougher than some of our other destinations, we use them less than, let's say, we would do in the Kimberley or other destinations. But we use them where applicable to complement the Explorer tenders. So you guys, as our guests on board, can kind of pick and choose how adventurous or not, as the case may be, that you want to be on any given day. But like I say, the Explorer tenders are the kind of bread and butter of our exploration or expedition product. Anyway, moving on.
Okay, right round onto the northern side of Tassie is Stanley. That's the nut. There's a beautiful hike up to the top, or if for those that aren't so inclined, there is a chairlift. So that's it's well worth going. Stanley's a beautiful little fishing village with a great history, and you have time to explore it and see how things would have been many years ago. So it's worth visiting Stanley, I think. Thank you. Again, kayaking. This is in the Derwent River, a lot calmer potentially than
Tamar.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're right.
It's the Tamar.
The Tamar. Yeah, so a lot calmer. The Tamar's a tidal river, and yeah, it's the same thing applies. Everybody that loves kayaking can jump out. There's as you can see, there are singles or there are doubles to suit whatever you feel in the mood for. But yeah, I know people get a lot of pleasure from getting out on the water like that. Thank you.
Deal Island. David and I were lucky enough to be caretakers for 2 different stints. So we've spent about 6 months on Deal. And I tell you, there's nothing like being on an island when there's just the 2 of you for all that time. It's really special. And people on Coral Discoverer are so lucky to be able to go there, because parks are fairly strict on that, and people really only are allowed to arrive in their own boats, or a few can fly in if parks give them approval. You can walk up from the boat. The Explorer brings you in. You can walk up to the lighthouse. It's a bit of a hike. Or you can hang around the compound, see the little local museum, talk to the caretakers, have a little bit of a climb up Barn Hill, commune with the Cape Barren geese, the penguins, the wallabies. It's just a special place with views over the other islands in the Kent group, including Erith, which has a bit of an artist's colony there during the summer. Unbelievably beautiful place.
And a unique opportunity to see it.
Really special to be able to go there.
Thank you. Home sweet home. Again, the Coral Discoverer usually brings the passengers into a place called Trouser Point, which is an iconic beach on Flinders Island. And then there's a variety of things that you can do. You can go on a walk through scenery as you see on the screen there, or you can get a bus to the local museum, or for the more adventurous, climb Mount Strzelecki, which is 750 meters high. It's a rugged climb, but one that's worth. It's got bragging rights to it, I think.
Or you can just have a swim at Trousers Point, and I can guarantee it looks like the Mediterranean. It is so crystal clear with beautiful quartz sand, but it's freezing. Worth the effort on a nice day.
Thank you, Will.
And that looks like my Dolerites. again, the Jurassic dolerites as you come around the Tasman Peninsula. It's hard to believe that at one stage the Navy used these as target practice. There were probably a lot more of the steep cliffs way back when, but again, stunning views that you just don't get unless you're on the sea.
Yeah, and I think that's a big point, that that we get so close to these islands and rock formations. Yeah, and we see some of the most remote lighthouses that Tasmania has to offer. So it's an exciting part of the trip. Thank you, Will.
Thank you very much, David and Dale. And now just on to our final part of our Tasmanian kind of expedition cruise series. We call it our Yachtsman's Cruise for the obvious reason that it's designed to kind of appeal to any of you kind of sailing lovers out there, because it follows the annual Sydney to Hobart yacht race. So obviously starting on Boxing Day, we Coral Discoverer gathers in Sydney Harbour, along with hundreds, if not thousands, of other small little boats and yachts to watch the big super maxis and the myriad rest of the fleet set off through the heads. So we time our departure to watch the fleet depart basically, and then cruise down the New South Wales coast across the Bass Strait towards Tasmania. Basically, it's 7 nights, Sydney to Hobart, stating the obvious, but departs every year on December the 26th, so Boxing Day. And yeah, designed for those people that want a bit of both worlds. They want to kind of follow the race, which is, I believe, very, very exciting as you kind of cruise, keeping pace initially with some of the super maxis before they leave Coral Discoverer far behind, basically. And then with a little bit of the highlights of Tasmania, so Wineglass Bay, Maria Island, Fortescue Bay, and Port Arthur that we've covered previously. So these are just some of the images that you kind of see as they leave Sydney Harbour and start the epic race down south towards Tassie. Bruny Island, which we've covered, you get your chance to stretch the legs on the fluted cakewalk. And as I've mentioned previously on all of our trips, not just the coastal trekking itineraries, we give you guys the opportunity to kind of pick and choose how adventurous you want to be. So even on a day like with the coastal trek itineraries that's built around a significant day hike, and if you wake up that day and decide that you don't want to do that, we'll always provide you with a range of kind of options, basically on a day by day, ranging from that, casual, more gentle beach comb, like with Dale was saying, to give you opportunity to do a bit of painting or just admire the flora and fauna, right up to those kind of big strenuous walks, basically. And we get you down into Hobart with perfect timing, and it's timed deliberately to get you there in time for the New Year's Eve fireworks, basically, and the captain's farewell drinks on board. And it's a lovely end to what is one of our shorter kind of expedition cruise itineraries, but it's incredibly popular, sells out every year, designed for those people that, like I say, want a bit of the best of both worlds, a bit of following the race, seeing those super maxis cruising off, and a little bit of that kind of Tasmanian East Coast highlights before we pull into Hobart. Just before we start to answer any of your questions, and I've had a few that have been pinging through on the phone as we've been doing a presentation, just a really short video on some of our Tasmanian cruises. Enjoy, and then when it's finished, we'll have a quick Q&A. Fantastic. And look, just a lovely little video that kind of gives you a gist of the type of experience you're going to see down in Tasmania, and gives you a bit of an idea of how we kind of utilize those unique explorer tenders, which really are the key to coral expedition and that kind of true expedition experience. So look, without further ado, because I know I've gone a minute over the 45 minutes, just a few questions which have been popping in whilst the presentation's been going. So first of all, someone's asked, are there any snorkel or scuba opportunities on this Tasmanian trip? The short answer is no. It's a two-part question, and the second part I'm going to hand over to you guys, David and Dale. So just because of the conditions, the kind of temperature of the water, basically, the fact that a lot of the places we go to, don't have that flat calmness, I suppose, for lack of better terminology. It's not really a snorkel and scuba destination. Part two of the same question to David and Dale was, are there any swimming opportunities on the trip?
Dale, you.
Yeah, definitely. I'm always keen to swim in Tassie, and last trip I think we must have had maybe 3 or 4 opportunities, and particularly people who have been for the walks, as well as just the people who walk on the beach. After a good walk, we were always getting back on the Explorer on a beautiful beach. And so there's usually ample time. They bring towels along. So if you want to, you're in your swimmers, you want to have a swim, you're able to. But we did at Fortescue Bay, we did, where else?
Shooting Island.
Bruni, Shooting. There were several places where you can swim, and certainly if you come to Flinders Island, you can swim, and you can swim at Deal Island as well. So yes, Tassie has some of the best beaches in the world, and usually there's nobody else there but you.
That's perfectly true.
Thank you very much, guys. Moving on. Someone's asked, is the cruise genuinely all inclusive? So the short answer is yes, with 2 small anomalies, basically. So laundry, we offer a laundry facility on board, but that does come at a small additional cost, which you can pay direct on board. And then with the alcoholic drinks, so beers, wines and spirits are included in the price that you pay for our lunch and dinner services. But if you are someone like myself that enjoys a cheeky G&T and watching the sun go down prior to supper, then that would come in an additional expense. So just to summarise, alcoholic drinks and obviously soft drinks and teas and coffees are included during lunch and dinner service. But for those alcoholic drinks outside of lunch and dinner, that would come at a small additional cost, depending on how much you would like to consume. Other than that, it's an genuinely all-inclusive experience, all your shore excursions and all the kind of onboard experience. How physical do we need to be to enjoy the trip, or words to that effect? So between me, David and Dale, we kind of covered off some of that question, in the sense that it doesn't matter if it's we're cruising in Tasmania, in Kimberley, in PNG, in Raja Ampat and the Spice Islands, wherever we go, and including itineraries like coastal trekking, 10-night itinerary that's geared around these big treks. We're always going to give you guys the option to choose, how kind of physically demanding you want your day to be. So again, ranging from a gentle beachcomb or just having a look at the local marine life and flora and fauna, to those quite significant day treks. We cater to all physical requirements, so you're never going to be left on board with nothing to do. In suitable places, for those of you who don't want to go ashore, we get you to jump on board the Explorers and sit in comfort and shaded from the sun or the rain occasionally, and we can cruise through the bays, rivers and coastlines. So in short, we just give plenty of options. So no matter how kind of physically fit you are or not, as the case may be, there's going to be opportunities for you on a daily basis. Moving on, are children allowed on board? Look, we don't have any age restrictions at Coral Expeditions. That being said, it's pretty rare that we ever have children on board. for the more obvious reasons that, look, we don't have any televisions on board. The whole ethos of the company is, built around, the education, the flora, the fauna, the history, the geology. We have lectures and presentations, and it's not particularly geared up to children. That being said, we do occasionally get some kids on board, but they tend to be traveling as part of, one of those larger family groups where the grandparents might be treating the wider family to that big bucket list expedition kind of trip. So that's pretty much the only time that we'll get children on board. A question that I get asked all the time, Wi-Fi, and do we have it, and how good is it? So if you'd asked me kind of 6 to 12 months or so ago, I would say, particularly in the more remote areas of Australia and international waters, the Wi-Fi was pretty average, if I'm honest. In the last 6 to 12 months, we've spent a small fortune with Elon Musk's Starlink tech capability. Not that he needs the additional money. And from what I've gathered from our kind of onboard team, the Wi-Fi is now better than our Cairns head office. We give you what we call our standard Wi-Fi package, which comes included in the fare that you pay to Coral Expeditions. And our standard package is going to be more than adequate for the vast majority of you. So if you want to just keep in contact with friends and family, post some photos and videos up to social media, going to be more than capable with the included standard package. If you're one of those unlucky people that has a important work meeting or God forbid wants to download big Netflix movies, which I can assure you you're not going to have time to do, you might want to upgrade to our premium Wi-Fi service, which does come at an additional cost. But like I say, the standard Wi-Fi comes included in your fare and is going to be more than adequate for your kind of day-to-day needs. We always get asked this one. I'll hand it straight over to David and Dale. The weather. Look, I grew up over in the UK, guys. I've never been down to Tasmania, despite living in Australia for 15 years or so. I believe it's one of those destinations that you can get all 4 seasons in a day. We try, obviously, to run our Tasmanian cruise series during the height of the Southern Hemisphere summer. But can you just give people an idea of what to expect, and then segue maybe into any suggested items of clothing that you would not leave behind, guys?
Yeah, with pleasure. Expect anything is the simple answer. But we've just finished packing to go off on the next cruise tomorrow, and we've got layers. Take layers and a rain jacket, and all will be well. Yeah, it can be cold, but layers, or if you even a bit more worried about it, if you've got some thermals, pack them. But in the summer, I don't think you'll need them. But Hobart has been known to see snow on Christmas Day, so that's just one of the extremes that could happen.
It didn't happen last year, and again we had such beautiful weather most days that people were keen to swim and kayak and get out into it. So we don't like to tell people too much about how nice the weather is. We might get too many people here.
Excellent. Well, look, thank you very much, guys. We'll wrap it up now. I know I've gone a little bit over my kind of 45-minute timescale. I really appreciate your contribution, David and Dale. We're lucky to have you, one, helping me, provide a bit of an overview of our Tasmanian cruise series, but we're lucky to have you on the ship. Sounds like you're heading off tomorrow, which is fantastic. Have a fantastic cruise, and thank you very much for your help once again. For those of you who are joining us today, please reach out to us at any time on the Explorer email. You can call our reservations and service teams on the 1-800 number. And again, look, we've been working with the the travel trade for close to 40 years now. So please feel free to reach out to your travel agent as required, and we're more than happy to chat with them as well. This was just a very kind of brief overview of the Tasmanian cruise summer cruise series. Basically, we've been doing it for 10 to 12 years now, and it's a spectacular kind of true expedition cruise that, yes, we tick off the kind of major, I suppose, tourist highlights in the terms of places like Port Arthur, but we really focus on some of the really remote, hard, if not impossible, to get to other than by ship, places like Port Davey. And it's that kind of true expedition wilderness experience. For any of you, currently booked on this season or even in 2025, you're going to have a fantastic time. And for any of you just kind of considering your options for this year or for next, then hopefully it's inspired you to pick up the phone to your travel agent or give us a call, and we'll more than happily see you on board. So thank you again, David and Dale. Really appreciate that. Have a fantastic time on board Coral Discoverer tomorrow. Thank you to all of you joining us today. We will be emailing you a copy of this presentation, so you can please have a re-watch to your heart's content, basically, and enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers, guys, and cheers, David and Dale. Bye-bye.
Bye.